the Rock type. A type that is notorious for claiming to be sturdy, but has like 4 weaknesses, all of which are to very common attacking types. Yes, I said all 4 of them are, because grass has risen in popularity thanks to Shrek and Donkey Kong over there. So now all 4 of its weaknesses are incredibly common, which means that the only way to play a defensive rock type is to terrestrialize it. And then Stealth Rock is basically a carry for... Oh, getting a phone call. Give me a second. Oh. Wait, really? Well, alright then. I guess I'll do that. So, I was requested by the people I work with to talk about something normal for a change, and I don't want to have to post a bunch of Dwayne Johnson or the Boulder images every time you say rock. So, I guess I have to talk about something normal. But like, what even is normal anymore? Speaking of normal, this definitely is not. You're also probably wondering why this is a top 6 and not a top 10, and also, why 6? Well, for one, I like a certain mon on this list and I wanted it to be here. And I didn't think of it as top 5 material, so top 6 is what we're gonna do. 2, there were a lot of normal types that I had trouble placing in the top 10 through 7 slot. And after a while, it just got really mentally draining, so I decided upon this instead. Before we hop in though, I wanted to give a brief section for the mons I had trouble placing, because I feel they deserve at least some kind of mention. Indeedee is nuts, mostly because of what it provides. Psychic Terrain sets up a lot of decent Pokemon like Armarouge, Hawlucha, and Poltegeist. By itself, it's not the best, but it can do damage with Expanding Force, Dazzling Gleam, and Terra-Fighting Terrablast if needed. Ditto is a horrifying Pokemon to see in Team Preview, because by simply existing, you think twice about setting up to try to sweep. Porygon 2 is a Trick Room Pokemon that's incredibly bulky with 1 weakness, and with a good enough special attack to deal damage in a worst case scenario. Porygon Z is a freaking nuclear threat who can deal a lot of damage. It's held back by the fact that its speed tier isn't the best, and it's very frail. Heliolisk is solid on Rain and Sun teams. Dry Skin plus Life Orb in Rain lets it spam Thunder with no recoil, and no chance to miss combined with a boosted Surf. Solar Power and Life Orb, or Choice Specs, lets it use nuclear level Thunderbolts and Volt Switches, but it dies very quickly. So pick your poison. Swellow is a solid Guts abuser thanks to its speed, and its Choice Specs Scrappy Boom Bursts are nothing to scoff at. Also, it's a bit of a jerk. You can ask my writer. Obstagoon is another solid Guts and Flame Orb abuser, and with Obstruct, lowering the Pokemon's defense if a contact move is used on it, that makes Obstagoon threaten to do Ursaluna levels of damage to at least 1 Pokemon. Knockoff is also really nice to have. A few more things. Arceus is not allowed on this list because then it isn't a list. It's an Arceus video. We all know how good Extreme Killer is, so moving on. Also, no Megas and Z moves as per usual, and Miss Magius Pokemon Crystal Clear Let's Play, link will be in the description below. Staraptor is here for one reason and for one reason alone, and that's for the smoke. It wants to put on its Choice Scarf, enter the field, and bludgeon the opposition, and then either leave or faint. Reckless Brave Bird and Double Edge are heavy-hitting attacks capable of threatening even the toughest, sturdiest walls. And of course, this is the regional bird. And unlike other regional birds, this one gets Close Combat. Close Combat and U-Turn are 2 other moves you want to slap on it, because one kills the thing that walls your stabs, and the other pivots you into other Pokemon for a good matchup. It's definitely a solid mon, all things considered. The Scarf compensates for its speed issue in exchange that you get locked into a move, so it requires some proper prediction to use effectively. The other issue with Raptor is that it is not a sweeper. The recoil doesn't allow for it. It's meant to come in and put a massive dent in the opponent's team so the sweeper in question can sweep. It supports in its own way. Not to mention, even if it wanted to sweep and didn't have recoil, it has thin defenses. And you can't run Intimidate to offset that, because then you stop getting Reckless boosts, and you need those. I think that Staraptor is a good Pokemon. It's just a little high maintenance, but what it brings to the table is really, really nice. Its Terra can either be normal, flying, or fighting, because those cover all of its best moves. Maushold is a Pokemon that really is just better than Cinccino. Cinccino version 2 even. On paper, you compare the stats and compare to the conclusion that Cinccino is better thanks to its higher attack and speed in exchange for being easier to KO. Heck, they even both have Technician, which is a great ability, and then Tidy Up and Bullet Seed, which are great moves for them. But there are two things that Maushold has that make it better than Cinccino regardless. Firstly, Maushold has Bite, which buffed by Technician means it can do actual damage to more offensive Goldango variants, where most Cinccinos are walled. Secondly, Population Bomb. With Technician, it's base 300 in power. With Stab, that's base 450. Then add Terra Normal onto that, and it's an even bigger number. God forbid a Tidy Up was set up before then. Maushold has such obscene breaking power that it makes Ursaluna blush. What prevents it from being higher is that even with slightly higher bulk, it's still frail. And with Rocky Helmet and Rough Skin being common, its sweep can get cut short really easily at times. Not to mention, thanks to Booster Energy boosting speed and Pokemon that are naturally faster than it, there are just better offensive monsters due to their overall superior consistency. Encore is also really good for punishing setup and helping break walls, or set up a Tidy Up in a best case scenario. But Maushold has still shown that it's worth a team slot on a few occasions. I don't know what you want me to say about Blissey that hasn't already been said before. Why Blissey is good is insanely obvious. So we're just gonna do a lightning round as to why this fixture on stall, who keeps some of the best special attackers in check, is good. Amazing special bulk, Stealth Rocks and Seismic Toss. Thunder Wave is good support, Soft Boiled keeps it healthy, Natural Cure stops attempts to Toxic Stall or freeze it, it doesn't even need to run leftovers, it just runs heavy duty boots and does it completely fine, is one of the most annoying Pokemon in history, yet somehow saves the day every time a new special attacker dominates the tier. Okay, and oh yeah, weaknesses. Strong physical attack. And now we press onwards. Look, I'm gonna be straight with you guys. I was gonna have Ursaluna be lower and Ursaluna Blood Moon take this slot, but I didn't want to make you guys sit through two separate Ursaluna segments when I can just make it into one segment and just make a better video. So we're gonna do both Ursalunas in the same segment for the sake of me not saying Ursaluna as number 5 and then 2 segments later Ursaluna is number 3. That isn't very fun. Now, with that out of the way, they both are incredibly powerful and bulky, and are incredibly threatening with slow speed, but insanely big stats where it matters. But the two of them weirdly operate in different ways. Ursaluna Regular is a Trick Room sweeper who takes advantage of Guts, Flame Orb, and Facade. It takes a bit of setup, but once it comes in, it does a metric ton of damage with stuff like Headlong Rush, and either a 4th attack or Swords Dance to further enhance it. It's incredibly threatening, but it's a lot more telegraphed. Terra Normal for power, or Terra Ghost to beat fighting types are the usuals. Its main weakness is that it takes damage every turn thanks to the burn. Ursaluna Blood Moon isn't used in Trick Room because Blood Moon can't be used twice in a row, but it's really good on balanced squads as a bulky, strong Pokemon that can come and be immediately threatening. A base 140 power move off the gate is insanely strong. And unlike Ursaluna Regular, it can hold leftovers and doesn't need to burn itself. Combine actually being able to use an item with stuff like Moonlight, Calm Mind, Earth Power, and of course Mind's Eye to ignore normal immunities, Ursaluna becomes a Pokemon that can sweep outright by just sitting there, setting up, and firing powerful Death Lasers. And if you want priority, Vacuum Wave is perfect for exactly that. Terra Poison prevents it from being toxic to death, and it lets it dodge that grass weakness. Overall, these guys are both nuts, but Blood Moon is just better. but they both deserve to be on this list. Cyclizar just kind of has everything it needs to be the best support mon ever. Amazing speed, regenerator to heal when it switches out, rapid spin and knock off to remove hazards and items, and the ability to keep coming back in and doing its role over and over again, which make it rather decent. To make it even better though, Shedtail. Shedtail was its main sauce, and it's a signature move it shares with Sceptile and Orthworm. And out of all three of them, Regenerator makes Cyclizar the best one, and easily. Doesn't help that it's also faster than Sceptile, and no, I'm not joking. Yeah, you can't use Shedtail in OU, but back when you could use Shedtail Cyclizar in OU, well, like I'm sure I said before, you needed counterplay like Infiltrator Dragapult, or you just lost. Yeah, this one is a really absurd turtle. Blastoise, Torkoal, and Caracosta wish they were this good. It has a base 600 base stat total, has an ability that's literally just better multi-scale by making anything that hits it at full not very effective unless it's specifically immune to it, and then it has one of the most silly sets of all time because of exactly that. Calm Mind and the base 120 power Terra Sandstorm are basically mandatory. Rapid Spin and Rock Polish are two very good ways to boost its speed. And then you can choose to play basically any fourth move you want. Flamethrower, Ice Beam, Rest. Why rest? Because if you rest, you go back to full health, which means Terra Shell procs again. And then Chesto Berry can wake you up to ensure you go right back to setting up and swinging. And we aren't even done. If you Terrastalize it, it takes a whole new form that gives it an extra 100 to the base stat total. Game Freak literally gave it a Mega Evolution if you make it go into its stellar form. That essentially means that Terapagos is actually unwallable with enough Calm Minds, with the exception of some very specific stuff depending on the set you chose to play. This mon got banned in a day or two in Smogon OU, and for good reason. It's nuts. Now, in Ubers, when I went online to go ask someone about it, I was told it was Zygarde Complete at home. I hear Zygarde Complete was one of the best physical walls in Ubers. But then again, with stuff like Terra, Zacian Crown, and all these heavy hitters, I'm not seeing an Uber staple. I'm seeing a Ubers stable with the potential Ubers niche. Now that I think about it, none of the Pokemon I talked about, despite being normal type, felt normal. So in the comment section below, I want you to tell me what you believe to be the most normal type. These mons are actually all kinda weird. Now I'm gonna go look at rocks and pray something doesn't hit them really hard with brute force. That would suck.